I thought I'd just come over and check on my protege. Oh, hello, June.
Hello, Dr. Sears.
Well, you seem well established in your duties. How do you like working for our young professor?
Oh, just fine, thank you. I haven't done the work yet, though. I've been busy getting settled in my apartment over the garage. It's charming.
There's lots of hard work ahead, I warn you.
Oh, we'll get along all right.
Well, you won't be able to understand one way that he dictates to you. But it's exciting stuff. Take my word for it. I envy you both.
Aren't you doing the same type of work, Dr. Sears?
No. All I'm doing now is paperwork. Questionnaires, credits, administration. Thank heavens I'll be resigning in a few weeks.
I still say, Albert, you shouldn't do it. You're too young.
Now, that's just the point. I don't want to get old on this job. As soon as your appointment to the endowed chair in physics comes through, I'm leaving. I want to enjoy life, do a little writing, travel, go fishing.
I don't blame you. I wish I never had to think of nuclear research again.
Conscience acting up again?
Always. Aren't you afraid when you wake up at night that this monster science has created will devour us all?
You don't know what he's talking about, do you?
No, I'm sorry.
The atomic bomb. He helped to perfect it. And now he feels like the sorcerer's apprentice.
It's not a subject for flippancy, Albert. You know what's involved.
Of course I do. But I prefer to believe that when men settle down and think, they will demand that atomic energy be used for industrial power instead of for bombs. Don't you think so, June?
Oh, I certainly hope so, Dr. Sears.
Atomic energy for industrial use. That's just what I wanted to talk to you about, Albert. After going over all the available material of the nuclear reaction of the non-radioactive
I
elements...
knew you had that in mind ever since you got back. What do you suggest for a moderator?
Oh, here, take a look at this. Brown at Fulton Tech has an interesting theory on that.
Using this research for a starting point, I should have my new theory worked out in 3 or 4 weeks, provided Miss Spencer stands up under the grind.
Here you are, June.
Oh,
That's the end of it. Unless it pleases heaven to make me discover an error which will upset my entire theory.
why do you work so hard to build up a theory, only to hope it isn't valid?
You don't know what that paper's about?
The 5 weeks I've been here, I guess I've typed energy equals mass multiplied by the square of the speed of light about 10 dozen times. But it's still a mystery to me. Like saying a million or a billion.
Well, I think I found a practical way, at least in theory, to use atomic energy for industrial purposes. And if my theory is right, putting it into practice won't be too difficult.
Oh, I hope it is right, Professor. It could mean the beginning of a golden age, couldn't it?
A golden age. Yes. But for whom? If a few unscrupulous people get control of such a formula, it could mean a golden age for them. There are no laws as yet to prevent that from happening.
Why assume the worst? That's defeatism.
Can you blame me? When I first began studying atomic structure, I didn't dream I'd wind up working on a bomb.
But you just said that this involves industrial energy, not explosives.
But it can be just as devastating to world economy in the wrong hands.
That's why I wonder if I should continue.
Suppose you stopped. That wouldn't stop progress. Isn't it just a matter of time before another scientist hits on the same solution?
That's true. But I hope before somebody else comes up with this, that the world will have grown up and will understand how to use science for everybody.
And for that hope, you're willing to give up the credit for a great discovery.
What else can I do? I'm convinced I'm right.
I'm not so sure you are. But we don't have to settle that now, do we, Professor? You're tired. You ought to get some sleep.
I'm too wound up. I think I'll take a walk to Eagle Point.
Good. In the meantime, I'll copy these pages.
There's no rush, June. Get some rest yourself.
I'm afraid you've got me wound up, too. I'm not sleepy.
Come along with me, then.
Oh, I'd love to, Professor.
June, I've meant to ask you. I wanted to ask you for some time, but well, to be honest, I've been a little afraid of your answer.
Yes, Professor?
Do you like working for me?
Yes, Professor. I love it. I've never enjoyed anything more. How could you doubt it?
I work you so hard. Into the night, through the night, like this. You never go out. Even Sundays.
Some people have to go out to get their adventures. I find mine right at the typewriter.
You do?
These endless symbols and figures I type, they have a meaning for me, a different one from yours. The root is a ladder for the cipher to climb on to see what's on the other side. Plus sign is a cross that covers an entire world. The minus sign, Professor, is an obstacle to jump over despite the handicap. You see, I don't understand my work, but I do enjoy it.
Well, now we're even. You don't follow my math, and I can't follow your fancy. Sounds charming.
Thank you, Professor.
Why do you always call me Professor? Claude's better, not so old. Or maybe you don't like my name.
I don't know quite how to put it. Maybe it's because Professor used to make me think of something dried up with a beard and gold-rimmed spectacles.
That's what people used to think of.
Now, when I say the word Professor, it gives me a sense of closeness to something that's good and great and inspiring. You see, I don't know a lot about things. I know nothing of your work. But to me, you're all of that. You're good and great and inspiring.
June,
Yes, Professor.
it's time to get back. Dean Sears is coming for lunch. We've got to get some sleep.
Wait. I want you to understand. I love you, Claude. Oh, I'd be happier. Perhaps I'd have a greater sense of fulfillment if you... well, if you felt as I do. But I don't ask you for it.
You make me feel very humble and very grateful, June. I had hoped that...
What is it you're trying to tell me?
I want you to stay. Even though that's all I can say now.
I will. Let's go back. You need some rest.
Thank you. I knew you'd understand.
I don't. Hasn't the professor...
You haven't slept at all, June. Work all night and type all the morning. Won't keep young that way.
I wanted to have his paper ready for him.
The last secretary we had couldn't stand the strain, and he was a G-man.
G-man, what in the world for?
Oh, that was when we were out in New Mexico, working on the atomic.
Good morning, Albert.
Oh, Claude.
Morning.
Morning, Professor.
Claude, I've just read your paper. It's extraordinary. If I'm any judge, your theory will change our entire approach to nuclear research.
Theory isn't fact. It's got to be proved. And there are still revisions to be made.
Well, that should be of minor importance.
Come on, gentlemen. Let's have breakfast. This may be lunch to you, Dean Sears, but it's our breakfast.
Claude, your paper will cause a sensation at the Congress of Physicists in Philadelphia.
I'm not going to read it, Albert.
But, Claude, I've already informed the committee that you're preparing a paper on the subject.
You shouldn't have done that. You know my views on the matter. In the wrong hands, my theory can become a weapon instead of a benefit.
But that's preposterous. The more physicists that work on it, the less danger.
I'm sorry, Albert. I can't see it your way. Not now.
Very well. I'll notify them that you're not appearing in Philadelphia.
This is stupid sensationalism. These headlines are ridiculous, confusing, untrue.
We're not responsible for the headlines, Professor Rupert.
News is our business.
You tell us what this is all about, and we'll explain it to our readers.
No matter what I say, it'll be played up for headlines. This whole affair is much too premature. You can do more harm than good by writing about it now. If you will wait,
We can't wait, Professor. We don't ask is the news good or bad. All we're interested in is it hot.
How many bombs can you make out of a pound of coal?
Who are your financial backers?
Your intention to put public utilities out of business?
I'm sorry. We don't speak the same language.
You heard what the professor said. Please leave now.
Go ahead. Wait till I get through with him.
What do these scientists think? They own the world because they invented a bomb. You never can tell.
I thought I'd made myself clear. Professor Rupert is not giving any interviews.
Oh, I haven't come for an interview. I've come to stay.
You've come to what?
To stay. Oh, you must be Claude's new secretary, so of course you don't know. I'm Mrs. Rupert.
I'm June Spencer. How do you do, Mrs. Rupert?
Call me Eve, won't you? You seem like such a nice girl. You handle those reporters so beautifully. Where did Claude go?
I don't know.
Well, would you mind telling Eddie that I'm here? Eddie is still with us, I hope.
I'll call her.
Did you get rid of the reporters, June? Something wrong, honey? What is it, child?
Mrs. Rupert is in the living room. She wants to talk to you.
Eve, here? Oh, I see. You didn't know he was married.
Why didn't you tell me before, Eddie? It would have been easier than this way.
Wasn't for me to do. It isn't going to be easy for him, either.
I hadn't thought of that. Where'd he go?
Went for a walk.
Hello, Eddie. You haven't changed a bit in 3 years. You're heavier, though.
What did you come back for? We were getting along nicely without you.
Speak for yourself, Eddie. Or did my husband tell you to say that?
He never mentions your name. Not since you decided to go your own way.
Always the actress. How melodramatic. Woman returns home only to find that she's considered dead.
I wish you were.
I'm glad Claude isn't as narrow-minded as you've become, Eddie. I'm sure I can make him understand that I couldn't bury myself in that New Mexico wilderness with secret policemen breathing down my neck at every step.
Yes, that would have cramped your style, wouldn't it? Where have you been these last 3 years?
With my grandmother.
Your grandmother. What was his name this time?
Let me warn you, Eddie. I've come home to stay. And if you don't behave yourself, you'll land right back in that Greenwich Village hole you used to live in between jobs in stock.
That hole was good enough for you when you were down and out.
Well, I'm neither down nor out now, and don't you forget it. I don't know why I'm arguing with you. I'm tired. I've been up all night on the train. Where's my room?
Your room? You haven't any. Since we came back and the professor bought this house, there isn't any room for you.
Come now, Eddie. There must be more than one room upstairs. Who else lives here? The little secretary?
You are a nasty little animal, Eve.
When my trunk comes, send it up, will you?
And so I hoped I could save you the sordid details.
You loved her so much.
I don't know. Emotions are so vague, so unscientific. Knowing her power over me, she had an uncanny trick of keeping me off balance. I had very little peace of mind from the day we got married.
You didn't try to persuade her to come back to you.
No, how long can a man... She wanted the separation, and I didn't feel I should dissuade her.
Well, now she's here, and we can get things straightened out. Definitely. Eve, I want to know why you're here.
Claude, darling, you're surprised to see me.
Nothing you do surprises me.
But you're pleased, aren't you?
As a matter of fact, I am. It's time we settled this. Why did you come back?
Because I found out that I love you.
That's what I thought you'd say. I merely asked out of curiosity, but you're not going to hurt me anymore.
I don't want to hurt you, Claude. Believe me.
I wouldn't believe
I've
you.
been selfish and weak, I know, but I've changed, darling. Believe me, I've changed. Let's start all over again. Give me a chance, Claude. Don't send me away. I'll be a good wife. I'll help you. I'll do anything.
Like you have in the past? No, thanks.
That was a good dinner.
Thank you, Dean Sears. Eddie's always been an excellent cook, but I hope you noticed my touch to the table decorations. Oh, it's wonderful being home again, isn't it, darling? Well, let's sit here by the fire. Boy.
Well, Claude, shall we argue or just be comfortable?
Here they go again.
No, I'm not going to have my nice homecoming party spoiled. All during dinner, we did nothing but talk about Claude's theory.
Well, what could be more important? Didn't you understand my explanation?
Of course I understood you. But I think Claude's idea is sensational. Imagine 1 pound of coal producing as much energy as 1 month's output of all the power plants in the United States.
That's just why I get so excited about it.
Yes. But if Claude wants to keep it such a secret, what's the sense of talking about it?
I can see your point. We'll discuss it some other time, Albert.
That's better. Now I'd like to hear all the news about the town and the house and everybody.
Joan, phone Dr. Carey. You and I can get him out of there, Albert.
I'm going to call a doctor.
How's your patient this morning, Doctor?
I was too up to miss night. There's a clot forming from a bad bruise. A slight thrombosis, I'm afraid. Could be dangerous.
That's too bad.
I'm sorry. He needs rest badly. But as you know, our hospitals are so terribly overcrowded. Could you possibly let him stay here for a few days?
Certainly. Of course.
He'll need more attention than we can give him. Who'd take care of him?
I will.
And I'll help you, Eddie.
1 or 2 more or less don't make much difference. People here just come and go.
Thank you. Oh, I'll send over a wheelchair. That should help some.
Good. Come in.
Good morning, Mr. King.
Good morning.
I understand from Dr. Carey that you're to be our guest for a few days.
Well, it looks that way. Next time I drive in the rain, I'll certainly be more careful. I was on my way to Boston when this happened. I'm awfully sorry to impose on you this way, but I don't know anyone in the town, and you're not imposing. Just rest and don't worry. Hello, June. Mr. King, this is Miss Spencer, my secretary. How do you do?
How do you do? Dean Sears is here. He wants to speak to you about the trustees meeting tomorrow.
Oh, I'll see you later, Mr. King. Yes, do it, please.
Lane speaking. Oh, yes, Mr. King. We had our talk with Dr. Carey. Did he do what we suggested?
You convinced him, all right. It's all arranged. I'm a guest here. Now, listen, this is important. The meeting of the college board is tomorrow.
I wonder where the dean is. He said he'd be here at 4 right after the board meeting.
There's always a lot of palaver after the meeting.
He'll get here soon. Dinner will be late.
Good evening, Dean. We've been...
Don't let it get you down, Albert. It isn't as bad as that. I'm really not ambitious.
You know already, Claude? Did somebody telephone you?
No, but your face is an announcement in itself. Sit down. So they didn't appoint me to the endowed chair in theoretical physics. What's so terrible about continuing as a lecturer with a fellowship?
If it were only that they had refused to appoint you to the chair. But you've been suspended as a lecturer, pending investigation.
Suspended?
Why? What's happened?
Those newspaper stories. Surely they're not basing their action on them.
That was part of it.
This is preposterous, Albert. I'm not going to let them get away with it.
It's too malicious, too intangible, Claude. You can't fight it.
I don't intend to turn the other cheek.
Oh, Mrs. Rupert, may I have a word with you?
No.
Yes, please.
Now, why did they really kick me out?
Well, there's a whispering campaign in the town about you and June.
What?
Well, you know the way colleges are. They can't take chances in that direction. Of course, you'll be reinstated just as soon as they find out how wrong they are.
I don't believe it. I can't believe it. The board members aren't fools. How can they believe such criminal libel or condemn me without a hearing?
That's what's so infuriating. They neither accuse nor condemn you. They just play safe while they investigate.
Meanwhile, I'm penalized. I know you tried. And you were helpless just as I am.
June has to be considered, and Eve, too.
Albert, Woodland offered me a professorship a few months ago. I know it's a small institution, but it might be the answer. And the sooner I get out of here, the cleaner I'll feel.
I thought of that, too, so I called Woodland long distance.
And?
Somebody had telephoned the gossip to President Johnson.
I could have walked into that house instead of looking through windows, and nobody would have known the difference.
They're really upset?
Yeah, if I'm any judge.
Then King should have it all his own way.
From now on, this plan of his is really going to work.
Well, I'll report it that way without King's confirmation. I'm leaving tonight.
What about me?
King may need outside help. You stand by. And Dr. Carey may need further persuasion.
All right, Jim. You want some tea?
No, thanks. That'll be all, Eddie. Darling, you look so troubled, so tired and discouraged. Is there something I can do to help?
Nothing anybody can do. Thanks. It's my battle.
But whatever touches you affects me.
If the sledding gets too tough, there's always the solution you found in the past.
You're cruel, Claude. I'm trying to prove myself, and you keep repelling me. Why? You confide more in your secretary than you do in me.
June has earned my trust.
Well, give me my chance to earn it, too.
With pretty words.
With deeds. I'll do anything you say.
How can you expect me to believe you when you always...
Go ahead. Say it. You have the right and you know the truth. I don't care what you say, if only you don't ignore me. Listen to me, Claude. Let me tell you why I came home. I love you. I want to wipe away the past and build my future with you. For us together. No matter what happens. What I have been doesn't matter now. If you don't want it to. And what I can be. Well, that depends on you, darling. Claude. Claude.
Come in.
I've corrected these copies, and I think... Oh, excuse me. I'll come back later.
Oh, no, June. My husband and I will talk later. Claude's work must always come first.
Attachment to a special, rather a high purity of material. Use of a special material. Either put it away. I can't dictate. June, I've been intending to speak to Eve, but...
That isn't important. I'm concerned about you, your work.
I'll be all right. The Davidson Fellowship will allow me to continue my research until something else turns up.
What's the sense of going on with it? You insist on keeping the results a secret.
What else can I do? I thought I made it clear that...
Oh, I know you're suffering from a sense of guilt.
It isn't just that we used the bomb in the war. That was terrible enough, but it was a national emergency. Now, however...
And now you have no faith in the future.
I wish I had.
That isn't the kind of talk I want to hear from you.
What shall I say?
Tell me about homes in the future without dust or germs. About cities without smoke and factories without grime. Tell me that war and cancer and tuberculosis will become obsolete words in an obsolete dictionary.
You're dreaming my own dreams, June. But the time hasn't come yet to make them a reality. Progress is a slow process.
Oh, nobody has a right to sit back and say that the world is not ready for progress. Claude, I beg you, read your paper.
Hello, Albert? Yes. Albert, can you still arrange for me to appear before the Congress of Physicists? June has persuaded me to change my mind. What's the matter? I thought the news would please you. Oh, I see. Did they give you any reason? No. Thank you, Henry. The Davidson Fellowship for my special research has been canceled. Now what?
Claude, I've decided there's a pattern to what's been happening to you. Yes, I'm sure of it. Look, it's not only the endowed chair and your lectureship. Well, who took the trouble to get in touch with Woodland and the Davidson Foundation? At any rate, I'm going to do something about it. I'm driving to Boston tonight to settle things with the Davidson Foundation first.
Come in.
Mr. King,
Yes?
this letter came for you by special messenger.
Well, thank you. I guess my office is catching up with me. Do you mind?
Not at all.
Thank you.
Good news?
Yes, very good. Miss Rupert, maybe it was presumptuous of me, but I've been trying to find an answer to your troubles.
That's very kind of you, but I'm afraid there just isn't any solution.
That depends upon your point of view. Has it ever occurred to you that each era has its own special character? For instance, history will call this the age of opportunity, or opportunism, if you wish. Chivalry and gallantry are qualities no longer, they're weapons. Today's predominant creed can be reduced to a single maxim. Every man for himself, and the smartest man wins.
The smartest? Shouldn't you have said the most unscrupulous?
I think we understand each other.
I've been wondering when you'd get to the point.
Your husband has a fortune locked in his library.
I'm well aware of that.
And doing nothing about it.
Well, you see, I know my husband. I know he can't be stampeded into a decision.
If he doesn't decide soon, the buyer may lose interest. Other scientists are working on the same problem, you know.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. I assumed that...
Assume nothing. Seize your opportunity. Immense wealth, social position, everything you want.
As his wife, I do share his profits.
Yes, you do.
Claude, I've been waiting for you.
You wouldn't have. It's late.
I didn't want to disturb your work. Come in, will you? Sit down. While you've been working on your report, I've been worrying about us.
Look, Eve, let's get this straightened out. You're trying to recreate our past. It won't work.
Except in reverse. You have my heart now, and I have lost yours.
You have a heart.
Oh, yes. Just an ordinary one. Not a smug, righteous soapbox always spouting about its responsibility to mankind.
What you're getting at is you want me to sell my findings.
And why not? If you don't sell, you'll be a scientist without work, a man without friends, penniless.
I'll take that chance.
You're being a martyr. What for?
We're not measuring this victory by counting dollars.
You're a fool, Claude, a blind fool. And the world isn't grateful to fools.
In his time, Galileo was considered a fool. And Semmelweis, a worse one. And what did they call Dante, Bruno, Pasteur? But who remembers the names of those who judged them?
Claude, I used to be able to get my way with you, but now... Darling, I know what people are saying about you and June. I know it isn't true. That's the reason I want you to sell, so you can hit back.
There's no necessity. Albert's driving to Boston tonight to straighten things out for me with the Davidson Foundation.
Oh. Well, Hope he succeeds. You're not a blind fool, darling. You're a brave one. Don't change.
I believe you mean that, Eve. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Yes, I know. That's what I mean. I don't want to take the chance. Oh, come in, Miss Spencer. Well, Dr. Carey, I'm inclined to believe that you're more concerned about my condition than you're letting on. Oh. Oh, I see. Very well. Dr. Carey says I mustn't be impatient, even though I'm sure I'm all right. I was expecting Mrs. Rupert.
I must confess I was startled to see you here. But I'm glad you're able to walk again.
Thank you. Not very far, I'm afraid. That's what I was arguing with Dr. Carey about. Well, I see you're going to be busy, so I won't disturb you. As a matter of fact, I've been trying to keep out of everyone's way. I was awfully sorry to hear about Dean Sears' accident.
Mr. King.
Yes?
I don't think that this is any time to be polite, so I'm going to be very frank with you. Do you really have a blood clot? Or is Dr. Carey just saying that so that you can stay here in this house?
Frank is putting it mildly. Do you think I'd be out of bed, much less walking around, if I were pretending to be too ill to move?
I think you're too smart to overplay your hand.
Well, thank you. Then why should I play invalid?
I can guess. All of our troubles started coincidentally with your arrival. I believe Dean Sears is right. There is a pattern behind it.
You realize what you're saying?
Yes.
In that case, can you prove it? Otherwise, a lawyer would call it criminal libel.
And so are all the attacks against Claude. Against Professor Rupert.
Since when, Miss Spencer, has Professor Rupert's troubles become your trouble?
Am I intruding?
Well, that depends upon Miss Spencer.
I'm quite willing to admit now that I am.
You know, I should say offhand, there's some grounds for the gossip about that young lady, and
And a nice man who has yet to learn that some wives don't make scenes to get what they want.
Dr. Carey.
Oh, Miss Spencer.
Dr. Carey, why did you say that Mr. King couldn't be moved? You know there's nothing wrong with him.
There's something definitely wrong with anyone who has a thrombosis. Or have you made your own diagnosis?
Yes, and I find collusion. Oh, it's because of you that King is able to remain in Professor Rupert's house. From the day he came, everything's gone wrong.
You're overwrought, Miss Spencer. You're imagining things.
I'm not imagining anything. King is a murderer.
A murderer? Impossible.
He's responsible for the dean's death, and you helped him.
But the police said it was an accident.
It was no accident.
What makes you think the dean was murdered?
The dean was on his way to Boston to clear up Professor Rupert's fellowship.
No, you see how wrong you are. The dean knew why Rupert was suspended.
Oh, but I know.
Everyone in town knows. It's an open secret that because of you, well, Rupert's a married man.
What was Rupert's secretary doing here? I just passed her on the stairs. What did she want?
She told me that my friend the Dean was killed. And I am responsible. Because I let you threaten me into helping King. What kind of a doctor would save his own life at the expense of another?
A smart one. You better stay that way. Hadn't you?
June, listen to me. Won't you change your mind about leaving?
I can't, Claude.
Why not? I need you now, more than ever. Your faith, your...
You should have sent me away.
Wait just a little longer. This mess will be straightened out.
Not so long as I'm in your house. That's what started all your trouble.
That's nonsense.
Don't, please. You see, I know. Dr. Carey told me. Claude. Claude. There's nothing I can say. The fact that I'm in your arms makes the gossip partly true. I have to leave. I'm going to pack. Goodbye, darling.
What's the matter, Professor? Don't you feel well? Maybe we'd better have Dr. Carey check up on you.
Confound Carey and his big mouth. Get him on the phone, will you? Tell him I want to see him.
Hello? Hello? This is Eddie, Professor Rupert. Is Dr. Carey there? Who? What? Professor.
What is it, Eddie?
It's Inspector Pepper. He wants you to go over there. He says Dr. Carey's been murdered.
They're all out now. Shouldn't take us long to reach an agreement.
We can arrange that later. Right now, get me your husband's report.
Not so fast, Mr. King. I don't trust you that far. You won't see Claude's papers until I know exactly how I'm going to get my...
Stop wasting time and do as I tell you.
You trying to frighten me, Mr. King? Can't be done.
It can't?
Oh, no. You went to a lot of trouble digging up my past. It won't do you any good. My husband knows all about it.
But he doesn't know where you were the last 3 years. You know Jim Ferguson?
I met him once.
But many times, secretly, and I can prove it.
Like you, he tried to blackmail me.
Maybe. On the other hand, the police are still looking for the woman connected with Ferguson's activities.
I had nothing to do with...
She's sure to get 20 years, like Ferguson, once the police find her. And in their hands, this would be very incriminating evidence.
If I don't do as you say, you'll frame me.
Why not? I had hoped you and I might be able to persuade your husband to sell his report, but I've had to change my plans because, unfortunately, Dr. Carey had to be silenced.
Claude will notice that the papers are missing.
No. No, if I'd wanted them missed, I'd have had the safe blown open. I'll only need them for a few moments to photograph them, then you can put them back.
If I get you Claude's report, do I still get my share?
Your share and the evidence.
How do I know?
You'll simply have to take my word for it. And incidentally, it wouldn't be healthy for you to,
I see. Let's go.
No. I'll wait here. I like to avoid being caught in an awkward situation.
Doing there, Mrs. Rupert? You're after Claude's report.
Of course I wanted to hide it. June, you were right about King. I heard him on the phone. He wants it right now and doesn't care how he gets it. Why, he even tried to blackmail me. That's why I was forced to be so nice to him.
We better call the police.
No. Get Claude. He'll know what to do. I phoned already. He's left Carrie's. He's probably walking home.
But I can't leave you here alone in the house with King. He's dangerous.
Oh, I'll be all right. I'll stall him till you get back.
I've been mistaken about you, Eve. I owe you an apology.
Go ahead.
Lane, I'll have a photographic copy of the report in a few minutes. Come over here at once and wait for my signal. That's right. Writing your memoirs?
The deal's off, King. I've changed my mind.
Are you insane? Where are the papers?
Never mind, I have them. And before anyone gets back, I'll have a photographic copy. Don't come any closer.
Don't be silly. If you kill me, you can't sell the copy. Now give me the report and you'll get everything I promised you.
Oh, no. If you hadn't tried to blackmail me, I might have gone through with our little deal. It would have been easier all around. But as it is, I'll do better with you out of the way.
You'll never get away with it. You're crazy to try a thing like this.
This note will cover me perfectly.
Well, it's no quarrel about it. I promise you that... Lane?
Yes, King.
Here's the report.
I thought you wanted to photograph it.
Not the way things are now. Don't wait for me. I'm stuck here for a while, but I'm in the clear.
I left Mrs. Rupert in the library.
I'm glad you're here. I heard a shot, but I'm afraid we're too late. There's a note on the desk.
I'm going out of your life forever. I hope you'll always be happy. Eve.
What happened?
I'm sure I don't know any more about it than you do. I think I'd call the police if I were you.
Get Inspector Pepper on the phone, will you, June? He said he'd be at the university station.
Hello. Is Inspector Pepper there? Oh, well, this is Professor Rupert's home. Mrs. Rupert is dead and... Oh, thank you. He's out, but he's in a radio car and they'll contact him.
Thanks. Tell me, how many people kill themselves when they fail to get the wealth they covet?
I wouldn't know. Some people aren't interested in wealth for its own sake.
There are people like that interested in
Power and authority. The persuasion that money makes possible when they have enough of it and know how to use it. Professor, you see your work here as a means of benefiting mankind. To them, it spells power. They would use this new energy you're working on, for example, to control the world.
control without pity.
Power isn't characterized by mercy.
That's Inspector Pepper. Let him in, will you, June? King, before they come in, take another look at Mrs. Rupert, will you?
Why?
Was it suicide or was it murder?
Powder burns on her clothes. There can be no doubt about what happened. It's suicide.
I just wanted to be sure.
Where are they?
Here in the library.
King, catch.
Put it down beside her, quick.
Hello, Rupert. What happened?
Well, I was the first one here, Inspector. I heard the shot. When I came in, she was lying there dead.
Oh. Suicide?
My wife was murdered, Inspector.
What?
Murdered. She was killed by Gerald King.
Have you gone insane? She left a note.
There wasn't any note. My wife wasn't the sort of person to kill herself. I think if you'll examine the weapon, you'll find only one set of fingerprints. His. I'll tell you about his motives later.
You got anything to say to that?
You'll never make it stick, Rupert.
The world's just fought a war to stop men like you, King. The men back of you, the men back of them. You have only one defense. Selfishness.
Officer. You know a man named Lane?
No.
Not fast enough on the cover-up, were you? Well, Lane was a little careless, too. He left his fingerprints on Dean Sears' car, and also in Dr. Carey's office. Here. Hasn't that got something to do with the motives you said you were going to tell me about later?
Certainly has. Where did you get it?
From Lane, this man's accomplice. Lane is wanted for a lot of things in a lot of different places. We put a tracer on him, found out he was headed your way, intercepted him. Then I got the radio call. You and Miss Spencer needn't wait, Professor.
Thank you. There's one thing about this we'll never be able to figure out. I wonder what was in the rest of that message Eve left.
The rest of the message.
When I make a mistake, I crumple up the paper, throw it away, and get a new sheet. I don't cut it in half with the scissors. And I don't think Eve did either.
Now I understand. That's what made you realize it was King.
I wonder what really happened. Perhaps he was trying to help me after all. I'd like to think so.
So would I.
Are you still leaving in the morning, June?
Yes, it'll be best for you. Now more than ever. This is the place where I first told you I loved you. And this is where I want to say goodbye.
And this is where I'll be waiting for you to come back.